My game adventure just reached version 0.90. It's inspired by Dwarf Fortress Adventure Mode, hence the name. It's a sandbox RPG where instead of having a main quest or a storyline laid out for you, you can hop into the game and just kind of like do whatever. So instead of just like explaining the game, I decided just to play it instead. So for this playthrough, I'm going to be playing as an explorer who has the goal of discovering every single location in the game world. But before I do that, I actually have to generate the world first. Then I have to choose a race. Human is the only one available right now. And then finally I choose where my character starts. So I started my adventure in the town of Urkeep. So that was one location discovered. One location out of 317 locations to be exact. Not wanting to waste any more time, I entered Urkeep and went shopping at the local market. I purchased water and food as well as a map to the town of Fankeep. The maps don't automatically add a new location to your overworld map when you read them. Instead, they point to world coordinates that you physically have to travel to in order to discover the location. Another issue is that the map coordinates aren't always correct. There are good maps and bad maps. A good rule of thumb is that the more expensive the map is, the more likely it is to be correct. Which is exactly why I brought the map to Fankeep for 78 gold. I also used my last 4 gold to buy some animal hides. The price of items vary from location to location, so I'm hoping I can sell the hides for a higher price in another town. So with supplies and a map in hand, I began heading towards Fankeep. Along the way, I discovered the town of Fanheim, and I stopped at the Fanheim market to see if I could sell the animal hides for a profit, but the price wasn't really competitive, so I just carried on to Fankeep. After a couple of days of travel, I had ran out of food and water, and so at this point, either I can turn back to Fanheim or keep going in hopes of discovering another town to restock at. So while I had run out of supplies, my hunger and thirst were relatively fine, so I just decided to keep going, confident that another town was nearby. 2 more days of travel and I still hadn't reached Fankeep or discovered another location. My hunger and thirst were at dangerous levels and it was really too late to turn around now. Death was basically inevitable, but I still had a little time, so I just kept going. I died of hunger the very next day, but the good thing about adventure is that you can just continue playing in the same world as a new character, so I just hopped back in for another try. So for my second attempt, I was placed in the middle of the ocean. That's definitely a bug that I'll have to fix later. Anyways, I made my way to the shore and discovered the town of Lavelle. Again, I went to the town market to buy food and drink, but I made sure I bought more than I did in the previous run to avoid starvation and dehydration. I also purchased a map to Hanmark for like a meager 12 gold, so yeah, there's probably a good chance that this map doesn't really point to anything, but I still went with a cheaper option to make sure I have enough gold to buy provisions later on if need be. So with hopefully enough supplies this time, I leave Lavelle and start heading towards Hanmark. So based on the map, Hanmark is located at 280-70. I actually misread that for 70 to 80 and went in like the opposite direction, wasting time, supplies, and gold. But once I realized my mistake, I corrected myself and started moving in the right direction. And not long after that, I came across the town of Grandshire. There wasn't any water available at the market, which is what I wanted to restock up on, but it did have really cheap parchment. Parchment typically goes for about 8 gold a piece, but here it was only worth 1 gold. So if I came across a town that had parchment at its normal price, I would be able to make a 7 gold profit. And then that profit could be put towards buying more supplies and maps. So before leaving, I purchased 10 parchment as a future investment. 2 days after leaving Grandshire, I ran out of water again, but luckily I discovered Goldshire the very next day, where I was able to stock up on food and drink again. I came across the town of Ettercrest a day later, where I was finally able to cash in on that parchment investment that I made earlier. All the parchment sold for like a total of 80 gold, leaving me with a 70 gold profit. Now I did notice at the last town of Goldshire, the parchment there was worth 1 gold each. And the 2 towns were fairly close together, so if I was ever tight on gold, all I had to do was buy parchment at Goldshire and sell it in Ettercrest. But that wasn't really necessary right now, so I just continued following the map to Hanmark. Now, because of how cheap it was, I didn't really have like high expectations for this map to Hanmark, but clearly my expectations weren't low enough either. The map coordinates were like smack dab in the middle of the ocean, which seemed like some messed up callback to how I started in the ocean at the start of this playthrough. I mean, there was really nothing I could do about that, so I just began heading back to Ettercrest. And then on the way back, I discovered the town of Ursted and immediately got rid of that terrible Hanmark map. There wasn't any water, but I was able to buy some food. There was a good selection of maps, but I really wanted to buy one that was over 100 gold to ensure that it was correct this time. But first I had to really focus on finding some water, so I just purchased like 20 parchment for 1 gold each and headed back to Ettercrest. I sold all of the parchment for a total profit of 140 gold. Unfortunately, Ettercrest didn't have any water for sale, so I actually had to head back to Goldshire instead. And so I made it to Goldshire on the brink of dehydration. I purchased a map to Lewick for 107 gold. I really had no intentions of stopping on the way to Lewick, so I stocked up on more food and water than I ever had before. I checked the map coordinates and started heading towards Lewick. So I was like so focused on getting to Lewick that I forgot to drink anything back in Goldshire and ended up dying a day later. Like I literally died of dehydration with an inventory full of water. And after that playthrough, I just kind of called it quits, to be honest. So I was not able to discover all 317 locations in either playthrough. But if you think you can do better, and I don't know, you probably can, to be honest. The version 0.90 build of Adventure is available on GitHub, along with the version 0.8 code if you want to take a look at that. But that's pretty much it for this video, and thank you for watching.